Are you trying to hurt my feelings? Because if so, you are succeeding. Fortunately, my feelings regenerate at twice the speed of a normal man's.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we'll be playing Mono Black Devotion to Discard in the Timeless format. Now, Devotion's a strategy where you try and get a lot of the same mana symbol on permanents you control in order to get a benefit. Probably the strongest benefit you can get is using Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, that if you pay 2 mana into it, can pay you back mana equal to the devotion of that color. So it's a way to really vault your mana production. Another way we can leverage devotion is with Grey Merchant of Asphodel, which dings the opponent equal to X, where X is our devotion, and notably gains us that much life as well. And so these are like our main 2 reasons to be playing a devotion strategy. And an easy way to build up devotion is with Leyline of the Void. So it polices the opponent's graveyard, but if Leyline of the Void's in our opening hand, we could put it on the battlefield for free. So it's a way to like spend 0 mana and just start building up devotion from the get-go. Not to mention we get bonus points against like Arc-like Phoenix, Deathrite Shaman, any sort of graveyard shenanigans like Treasure Cruise and stuff like that. So very powerful card, but a little bit situational. The most powerful cards in our deck though, one of them is Necropotence. Triple black enchantment, famously strong, like one of the best cards in Magic. We skip our draw step, and we can pay a life to exile a card, and our end step, all those cards get put into our hand. Now, because it's our end step, if we go over 7, we'll still have to discard, but anyway, this allows us to just fill up our hand at the cost of life. Another powerful 3 mana spell we have is Liliana of the Veil, which can plus to make each player discard, -2 to make a player edict, and its ultimate, which is not that hard to get to, is basically like making a player fact or fiction away their permanents. Now, the convenient thing about both our most powerful cards costing 3 mana is that we can play Dark Ritual. Instant adds 3 black, so this allows us to turn 1 Necropotence, turn 1 Liliana of the Veil, some percentage of the time, and that just really is tough for some strategies to deal with. So it's just a super powerful option. Another one of the best cards in Magic. Just feels awesome to be able to play it. It's 4 copies in a 60 card deck. Another thing we have going on, so we have like our 1 restricted copy of Demonic Tutor, of course, and I mentioned that this is a discard deck, so we're also rocking Waste Not. That gives us a benefit depending on what the opponent discards, and it also gives us a little bit of devotion that also helps. So this works well with Liliana and also our vast discard package. So we have 4 copies of Thoughtseize, 2 copies of Inquisition, to help get benefits off Waste Not. Not to mention Liliana Plussing can help us there as well. Torment of Hailfire is there just as like an extra finisher, like sort of like functionally like an additional Grey Merchant of Asphodel. We can generate tons of mana off Nykthos sometimes and just pour it into this as a closer. Not to mention that thanks to Demonic Tutor, it gives us like a virtual second copy of this. So playing the 1 goes a little bit further. And in addition to our discard suite, we have Hopeless Nightmare, an enchantment that makes the opponent discard a card and lose 2. So because it sticks around, this actually adds to our devotion, and in a pinch we can crack it to scry 2. So it just ends up doing a lot of work. A really nifty, cool card in this strategy. And lastly, I want to shout out March of Wretched Sorrow. It's an X build that deals damage to a creature or planeswalker and we gain X. So it's like some interaction for us. But the important thing is that we can pitch black cards to reduce its cost. So like we can pay into it, for example. And this gives us something useful to do with our extra like Leylines of the Void we draw later on in the game that are just really clunky and not very useful. We can put them to good use and often overpay into this to gain enough life, because Necropotence really drains our life total. It doesn't let us draw once it's out, so we have to pay life for cards. And so we need to be slamming Grey Merchants and Marches to keep drawing, because opponents could be trying to kill us. We'll be paying tons of life. And yeah, so that's what's going on. I want to shout out one of the lands also, Geier Sanitarium. If the opponent finds himself empty-handed, we can force discards with this land as well. So just building some extra utility in the lands. But yeah, let's jump to some games. And this is a pretty good looking hand. Anytime you have like Dark Ritual, Necropotence, not to mention turn 0 Leyline, feeling pretty good. Alright, turn 1 Duress from the opponent. They snap off Dark Ritual. I think it might have been better just to take Necro, but maybe they have a second discard spell. But either way, we draw a Ritual, fire off Necropotence, and that's enough. And okay, we definitely take those and we jump right into the next game. I mean, that's part of the power of this deck. The opponent just did not even want to deal with it, like just the massive amount of card advantage we're about to generate there. Definitely mulligan the triple Grey Merchant hand, and this hand looks great. We have another potential, just busted Dark Ritual opening. Now the question is, do we Ritual out Necro, or do we Ritual out Waste Not into Thoughtseize? I think about it for a while, and I end up choosing the Waste Not plus Thoughtseize. I just was valuing the disruption, but honestly, it might have been better just to Ritual out Necro. I'm not entirely certain, but anyway, ended up doing the Thoughtseize plan. So the Thoughtseize, Tarmogoyf, Lightning Bolt. End up taking Thoughtseize just to protect the Necro in our hand, and then just an amazing draw off Waste Not. We get the Dark Ritual to get Necropotence into play. Potent leaves back Deathrite Shaman. Hive is a great draw just to get our mana underneath ourselves. And Nykthos can't cast Necro right now, so we're definitely going to Dark Ritual it out. Fire off Ritual, slam Necro. This is going to make Nykthos start to really do some nice stuff, so I'm going to speed through this part. It's just sort of tedious on Arena sometimes, but I'm just going to refill my hand with Necro. I'm not going to go too aggro because we already know they have a Bolt and a Deathrite Shaman, so that's already like 5 damage right there. And they have a Tarmogoyf, so we can't be too, so they're going to ding us for 2 by getting our Thoughtseize. Alright, so here comes our Necro cards. So I didn't feel like this is a spot where I could go too deep on Necro and just use it as like a looting effect for those last extra cards. So just refill our hand. Opponent cracks Windswept Heath. Gets a basic. Cracks Foothills. Shocks in a land. Deathrite. And you're generating mana. And opponent slams the One Ring. So we have the card advantage showdown for the ages right here. Necropotence versus the One Ring. And opponent's gonna pass. The funny thing is, like, the One Ring might actually be bad for them since we're a discard deck. It's gonna keep giving them fodder for us to make them discard. So we're gonna slam Necro. Can't use Grey Merchant yet. Just trying to make sure. I mean, we're just gonna slam Liliana plus. Like, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have 1 mana floating, so if like we hit like a Thoughtseize or another discard spell off, like, they discard something and we get to draw a card potentially. Alright, so opponent's gonna use the One Ring. Seems wise, it gives them more options, so we're gonna just pitch a land here. Waiting to see what they discard. Waiting, and they pitch Tarmogoyf, which is honestly excellent for us. It gives us a 2/2 blocker to defend Liliana, and now it's a question of how much to Necro. I'm just once again just going to fill up my hand up to 7 cards. They still have the 5 points of burn, so we just have to be cautious until we can gain some of that back with Grey Merchant. Alright, we get Leyline, 2 Leylines, and a bunch of lands, which is not super exciting. Alright, opponent fires off One Ring, trying to find some action. Now, the one thing is with the fetch, shock mana bases, and One Ring, like, there's another shock right there. Their life total is really under assault. I mean, they're already at 10, and we haven't really done that much. It's mostly been them doing it themselves. So, Bloodbraid Elf into Deathrite Shaman. It's clear at this point we're playing the One Ring. Sorry, we're playing Jund, and just, I mean, you could call it the Jund Ring deck. And just looks awesome. Just Deathrite Shamans, Blood Raids, Tarmogoyfs, like just an awesome plan. So they're going to use their Deathrite to bolt our zombie. And then they're going to not attack Liliana here. That makes sense to me because our life total is a huge resource with Necro. So, and they can't even kill Liliana right here. So it makes sense just to push our life total down and shut off our card advantage engine. So I like that attack from them. Now, Liliana's Edict is not going to do anything for us here. We need to dream bigger. So we're going to discard and see what Waste Not will produce for us. So we're waiting to see what they discard. And they discard a land, which is honestly excellent for us because we can't quite Grey Merchant them out. We were just, I think, a little bit short on mana to go Leyline into Grey Merchant. But now that they pitched a land, that gives us one Nykthos activation already, so we can slam a Leyline, and then Legend Rule ourselves with the second Nykthos. Keep the new one. And then activate the new one and slam a Grey Merchant for 10 and just lock up the win right there. So just a nice clean win against Jund, and felt pretty dang good. Now as we move into the next game, please Abyssal Hunter the like button, comment and subscribe. It supports the channel and helps you know what the people want. Thank you. Alright, another solid hand. Not as explosive, no Dark Ritual or anything, no Necro, so we're gonna have to see where it takes us. Takenuma into Thoughtseize. And I go ahead and snap off the Dragon's Rage Channeler. There is an argument for taking Treasure Cruise there as like a way to like refill them since we have removal, but this deck we're playing tends to not be very threat dense, and so just buying ourselves a ton of time by getting rid of Dragon's Rage Channeler is I feel like very important. Not only that, but you know, if they leave it in play and they get some surveil value, and let's say they manage to outgrow, anyway, it's just riskier to let them have it. But like I said, I see how fast they're filling their graveyard, and it's making me sort of wish I took Treasure Cruise. Alright, we don't draw a land, but we draw a Waste Knot, which is going to be excellent once we slam Liliana at some point. We are a little bit land light in this deck. We're relying pretty heavily on like Dark Rituals and Nykthoses to get us there. So opponent fetches and slams a Blood Moon on our heads, which would have been devastating since we happen to have a bunch of non-basics, but we happen to rip a Swamp, which is absolutely clutch for us right there. Otherwise, that might have quickly became game. So, alright, so opponent fires off Brainstorm. Brainstorm's a little tough when you're like blood mooning yourself. You're not gonna be able to fetch, you might lock yourself. Not only that, but opponent's really locked on their number of blue sources. All their non-basics are now mountains. So opponent dashes in Ragavan. We don't want to let them get a treasure and start really going off or steal any of our cards. So we're definitely gonna use March of Wretched Sorrow. Not to mention it gains us a couple lives, so Ragavan bites the dust. And we rip a second Swamp. That is super clutch, because now we could start going off with Liliana of the Veil. Just thinking, so had they not played Ragavan last turn, we would have cracked Hopeless Nightmare to Scry. But Ragavan was too much of a problem, especially since it had haste off the dash. So we're going to plus Liliana and see what Waste Knot gifts us. We're gonna pitch Torment. Like we'd love to hold on to it, but it seems a little ambitious, especially with Nykthos shut down right now. Alright, and they pitch a Bolt. Excellent, because that's gonna draw us a fresh card. Demonic Tutor. So I'm already thinking, like, alright, what am I gonna get with the Demonic Tutor? Like, we don't have any way to get out from Blood Moon.
Now you've got my attention.
So it'd probably be like a threat or something like that. So opponent fires off Treasure Cruise. Once again, they're very choked on blue mana. Alright, so they get 3 fresh cards. And at this point, it's like, okay, well, I guess we have a spare March of Wretched Sorrow, so we're definitely going to pitch one of those and leave the Demonic Tutor for now. So let's see what they pitch. Alright, they pitch a spare Blood Moon. We draw an Inquisition. That's an excellent draw. So we fire that off, and we're going to be able to strip their hand again of something. And then we have our choice of counterspell, and yeah, they just pack it in. It was going to get ugly for them, and they were not going to be able to hold any cards in hand. So, move on to the next game, and opponent mulligans. And this is just the power of playing Dark Ritual, like in threats like Necro and Lily. So, yeah, just turn 1 Dark Ritual, slam Lily on the Veil, and just start getting to work. So we plus her. And yeah, opponent packs it in. So we have these sort of bombastic turn 1s available to us that a lot of other decks don't have. Like, some of the most powerful cards in Magic are Dark Ritual and Necropotence, and we're playing them in the same deck. So it's just a beautiful thing. So this game we're firing off a turn 1 Inquisition, and the two things we're most looking at are Orcish Bowmasters and Inquisition from the opponent. Now, I decided to grab Orcish Bowmasters. That's problematic in that Liliana cannot clean it up very easily. So the opponent is going to get to slam us with the Inquisition. And, you know, what would you take if you were the opponent? Would you take, you know, Demonic Tutor or Liliana? They end up taking the Demonic Tutor. I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, like, it's scarier from their perspective, and like the unknown of what we could get. But it's also like, yeah, I guess it's the most castable card, and it can help fix our mana, and so it makes sense from that perspective. So it's not an easy choice for them. All right, so we missed our turn 3 land drop. Not very happy about that. All right, so opponent slams a Tarmogoyf. Now this is the power of March of Wretched Sorrow right here. So we are like mana screwed, but we're able to pitch some cards right here. Now, before I'm like slamming March, I'm making sure I completely understand Tarmogoyf's status with the graveyards, and realize that they can actually add a land to the graveyard with their fetch, but it doesn't seem like they can grow it any further than that. So we're gonna pitch 2 cards to March and kill off Tarmogoyf. Not to mention, it's going to gain us 5 life, which is just going to be really crucial if we ever slam a Necro, or it could just buy us time. So that's the power of March right there, being able to pitch dead cards like spare Leylines and stuff. But we rip a land and we can slam Liliana and just start tearing apart their hand. Alright, so opponent pitches Shieldred. Doesn't look good in the face of a Liliana of the Veil. And none of that, but they want to keep land 1 ring, so once opponent slams it, gains protection. We find Hive of the Eye Tyrant, and able to strip that last land out of their hand. Yeah, so they pitch the land. End step, we're probably going to crack Hopeless Nightmare to scry 2. It does weaken our Nykthos, but we really need to make sure we start drawing some action here, especially against the 1 ring. Like, that's going to provide so many cards for them. Alright, so they're still fishing for some action, so they end up main phasing the 1 ring. They play tap land, Deathrite Shaman. Blood-Red Elf would have been like a nightmare play for us. Alright, so they play Deathrite Shaman into Tarmogoyf. Things are getting nasty real quick. So yeah, we're gonna crack Hopeless Nightmare to see if we find anything. Grey Merchant and Leyline. Unfortunately, we can't cast Grey Merchant anymore now that Nightmare's gone. So we're gonna have to bottom both these cards. They don't do anything for us, so get rid of Leyline and Grey Merchant, see if we could find something useful. Waste Not, that is super clutch. So that allows us to slam it and activate Liliana. Let's see what we get. So we can rip their hand apart, and we hit a Shieldred. Really glad they didn't hit the battlefield, and that gave us a zombie to defend Liliana. So opponent main phases the 1 ring again, it's ticking up. And that's the nice thing about playing Grey Merchant against just the field, because there's a lot of decks that deal a ton of damage to themselves, so Grey Merchant doesn't need that much devotion to finish people off. Now they're attacking both creatures into Liliana here because she's actually on the cusp of ultimating, so anyway, so now's the choice. So what would you do in this situation? Would you block Deathrite for the trade, or would you chump Tarmogoyf to protect Liliana from like a bolt? So I opt to chump the Goyf just to protect Liliana from the bolt or an Orcish Bowmaster. So that was my rationale out there. I would have loved to kill off the Deathrite, but felt too important to keep Liliana around. So you can see what the auto tapper is selecting. I realized we need to keep Nykthos available in case the opponent pitches a land right here. So we're going to slam a second Waste Not and plus Liliana and see what we get. We could get another card. Alright, so they pitch a land, and with 2 Waste Nots that generates 4 black mana. Now I wanted to keep that available just in case we wanted to fire up Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Now the opponent, once again with fetches and shocks and 1 ring, their life total is falling, and so we're going to just get aggro with Hive of the Eye Tyrant. I spend some time thinking about what to exile if we can like weaken the Tarmogoyf somehow, but they have enough redundancy in all the pieces that I just take a Shieldred. We smack them to 10, and they immediately lose 3 more life off the 1 ring. Now they're in like the danger zone, and the One Ring is going to be doing at least 3 damage to them. From my perspective, the scariest thing they can draw is a new copy of the One Ring to like legend rule away the old one and then ease the burden on their life total. Now notice that they didn't attack with Deathrite. They're going to need it on life gain duty right now, but Molten Collapse takes care of Liliana, and now we are in big trouble. So opponent taps One Ring again. I keep expecting a second ring to hit the battlefield, but they so far haven't found one. So here comes Bloodbraid, and they decide to cast the adventure portion of Questing Druid, so ample threats from them. Leyline of the Void. Not great here. I mean, it's going to shut down the graveyard. It would have been better turn 0, but it will give us some more devotion for Nykthos to at least activate Hive the Eye Tyrant. So opponent gains some life off Deathrite, gets dinged by the One Ring, so now it's dealing 4 a turn. And once again, like I said, they're drawing so many cards off the One Ring. I keep expecting them to play a second copy, but they so far just keep missing. So we need something incredible right here. We get dinged. So Hopeless Nightmare seems very strong. Now I'm trying to figure out what to tap. I want to keep Hive of the Eye Tyrant available as like a possible attacker. It has Menace, so it is a really annoying creature for them. You notice they had to leave 2 creatures back. Deathrite's also on life gain duty, so opponent's at 7 life, losing 4 to the One Ring currently. 7 counting Deathrite right now, but if they set an upkeep stop, they can also gain 2 more off Deathrite, so we have a little bit of work ahead of us to actually kill them from here. Alright, so we fire off Hopeless Nightmare. The opponent flashes in Bowmasters, probably, to empty their hand, and also anticipating us drawing cards off what they're going to discard, and that'll allow Bowmasters to keep dinging us. So we hit Hopeless Nightmare, waiting to see. Alright, so they pitch a non-creature, non-land, so it's going to allow us to draw 2, and Bowmasters is going to ding us every single time we draw at this point. Now, Grey Merchant would just win right here, except we are 1 mana short, unfortunately. So that, I guess that's the argument for not using Nykthos to cast Hopeless Nightmare, because if you can go up on Devotion. So that was, yeah, maybe a misplay on my part, but we're going to just do the best we can. Fire off Thoughtseize, and we hit Liliana the Veil, so it gives us 2 more redraws, which is nice, but Bowmasters is eating away at us this whole time as well. So we draw a Geier Reach Sanitarium and a Liliana. We fall to 4 life. And so now we can play our land for the turn in Geier Reach, but we're still 1 mana short of Grey Merchant. Liliana does nothing here. Too many creatures, they have no cards in hand. The opponent is hesitant to tap the One Ring because I don't know if they can actually outgain it if they add another counter to it. So that's why they're very worried about activating it. So we're going to fire off Geier Reach, and you can see them contemplating using the One Ring here, because that would give them some optionality as far as what they discard to our Waste Knot, but it puts them in a dangerous spot for their life total. So we're going to pitch Liliana, and we just super lucky right here. The opponent, the one card they drew and discarded off Geier Reach was a land. And so with 2 Waste Knots, that bumps us up to 5 mana to slam down Grey Merchant. Now here's the problem though. We're at 3 life and they play Bolt, and they have an on-demand draw 5 right now. So they're forced to activate One Ring, so they draw 5 cards, are waiting for Bolt, and they don't have it, and we get the win. Man, there's a lot to love about this deck, but man, just Dark Ritual into like Necropotence or Liliana is just one of the best feelings ever. Not to mention it gives us like some free turn 1 wins. I do like how this deck can also grind out wins. Like you saw some of those games were like very extended, and there's just a lot to love about this deck. We get some of the most powerful cards in Magic, like Necropotence and Dark Ritual, and just a really cool strategy. Waste Knot just gives us a lot of play against what the opponents are doing, and heaven help them if they're trying to play Fable the Mirror Breaker against us. But yeah, we can just really do some awesome stuff. We give a ton of hand disruption, just really shred their hands, and just we can pack utility on our mana base. We get incidental hate on the graveyard. There's just a lot to love about this strategy. It is not invulnerable. Like, we had an awesome run right here, just ripping off 5 wins in a row, but you saw some of those games really came down to the wire, like plus or minus a lightning bolt. It might have swung the game in the opponent's favor. So it's not invulnerable, but it's just a super fun strategy, and it's not ironclad. Like, there's something, like maybe you could tweak the amount of discard spells, throw in a Meat Hook Massacre. Like, there's some tweaking that can be done to it, but I really like this as a starting point and would strongly recommend it if you have the wild cards to spare, because it's just an awesome strategy, and I think it's very like moldable to sort of suit your play style. But yeah, let me know in the comments what's your favorite thing to play turn 1 off a Dark Ritual. Anyways, thank you for watching, and hope you have a wonderful day.